You just never know what's going to make you choke up, right? So, how are you doing today? Don't say fine, because I know you're not. Let's take a deep breath together, shall we? It has been a really rough week. The election didn't go the way many of us had hoped. And if you're feeling a mix of anger, fear, sadness, or just plain exhaustion, you're not alone. There is a heaviness in the air, a sense that the ground beneath us just shifted. Because it has. 27% of this country decided that a felon and a sexual abuser would be better in the highest office than an experienced woman. And nearly 50% of the country didn't vote at all. This is not about Democrat versus Republican. This is about our values. This is about how Trump should never even have been able to run again, much less have been embraced. If the values of this country were, as I was taught, honesty, equality, justice, Trump would not even have been a candidate. And honestly, I'm surprised at how shocked I was by this outcome. I mean, it's not as if the country suddenly changed overnight. It didn't. I guess I am still an idealist at heart. But as someone wisely put it, my heart may be broken, but my vision, it is pretty darn clear now. My heart is broken that on the morning after the election, Google searches spiked for how do I change my vote. Look it up. My heart is broken hearing stories of boys and men chanting, "Your body, my choice," in schools after the election. My heart is broken by anonymous texts sent to Black women around the country this week, instructing them to report to the nearest plantation. And my heart is broken that the Trevor Project, the leading suicide prevention and crisis intervention hotline for LGBTQ+ young people, saw a nearly 700% increase in calls on November 6th compared to prior weeks. My heart is broken, but my vision is clear. We see, don't we? Even if we didn't before, even if we had the privilege of hoping we as a country were better than we are, the curtain has been pulled back and we see now. It is normal to feel sadness and disappointment when your candidate loses an election. It is not normal to feel as though life as you know it may end in 70 days. To wonder whether you will have any rights in 70 days. It is not normal when governors around the country are calling special legislative sessions to figure out how to protect their citizens from the incoming administration. That is not normal. And please do not say that we just have to survive these next 4 years, that we did it once and we can do it again. We didn't all survive that first Trump presidency and the policies that have been put in place in states since then, and we will not all survive this one. We are already seeing an erosion of reproductive rights, of marriage rights, of health care, of basic human rights. And I pray that it is only 4 years that we have to live through. But I don't have confidence in that, because in July, Trump told his followers that if they vote for him this November, in 4 years, they won't have to vote again. This is devastating. So please, if you are not upset, if you wonder what all the fuss is and why I am clearly upset, just listen. Don't tell us to get over it. Don't tell us it will be fine. Instead, listen. Listen to the vulnerable people than what they're telling you, because we are hurt and we are scared with good reason. Let's pause and take another breath together. And as we do, I invite you to hold in your hearts all that pain, all the grief, all the confusion you may be feeling right now. Let's take a moment of silence to honor it, because we know that there's power in naming it and power in sitting with it together. Because perhaps it's only by fully feeling our heartbreak together that we will be able to find the strength to rise. So let's breathe. I felt like I needed to start by naming the pain and grief and fear and heartbreak that many of us are feeling this morning, and anger. But beloveds, we can't stay there. We can't stay in the anger and the fear and the stress. And we can't stay in a place where we just hope it will be all right. In some ways, it was this sort of ungrounded hope that got us here. We have been conditioned to think that hope is this magical thing we're supposed to cling to no matter what. But sometimes hope can be kind of a trap. It can keep us waiting, thinking that if we just hang on a little longer, someone or something will come along and fix everything. When hope feels like it's gone, it is tempting to slide into despair. But here's the thing. We know that action is the antidote to despair, especially when we feel powerless. Action directly challenges that powerlessness. After we begin to emerge from shock, action is the appropriate response when we lose hope. And then that's actually where things begin to get a little bit interesting, because when there's no more waiting around, no more hoping, we're freed to get to work. When we stop hoping for change, we start making it. And that's where community comes in. They say that ministers have one sermon that we give in different ways from a variety of different perspectives, but the underlying theme of a minister's sermons are almost all the same. Beloveds, my sermon is about community, building it, strengthening it, leaning into it when times are difficult. This is why I am an interim minister. I believe that our Unitarian Universalist congregations save lives, and I want them to be healthy communities. We human beings need one another. We're not loners. We need our friends, our communities, our congregations. And it is our communities that affirm our inherent worth and dignity. It is our communities that celebrate with us, that mourn with us. It is our communities that keep us safe, that protect us and shelter us. Black people, Indigenous people, LGBTQ+ people, and other marginalized communities have long known that the government does not have their best interests at heart. They have learned to build community, find joy, and resist, even when the systems were designed against them. Those of us who believed that the government is supposed to affirm our humanity have so much to learn from the resilience other communities already know. As a Unitarian Universalist faith community, particularly one in Indiana, we have the opportunity to learn from one another, to live our values in life-saving and life-giving ways. There's an urgency to our faith, knowing that we will be welcoming people who are afraid, who are seeking community that tells them that they are lovable and that they are loved. Beloveds, now is the time to move beyond hope, to move beyond fake fights that distract us from the work, and instead put our faith into action. It's time for us to become a sanctuary, a place of safety and support and courage. This could mean offering physical sanctuary to those in need, and it also means standing up for those who are targeted. This might look like organizing mutual aid efforts, checking in on our community members, or discreetly offering resources to those who are most vulnerable. FYI, the church will have a stash of morning after pill on hand for anyone who needs it. No questions asked. Being sanctuary might also look like building networks of support within and outside the congregation that can withstand what comes next. Networks to keep each other safe from the threats that are already emerging. But being a sanctuary isn't just about opening our doors, it's about opening our hearts. It means being a place where people feel seen, where they are told they are worthy and loved just as they are. It means being a place that truly, truly welcomes people, whoever you are, and whomever you love, whether you worship one God, no God, or many gods, and whether you dance in on little feet, strolled up, rolled up, or zoom in. Our UUA president, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Bettencourt, in an email that went out earlier this week, reminded us that we Unitarian Universalists are a sanctuary people. From the powerful efforts of our elders in the middle of the 20th century through to our congregations and communities offering shelter to migrants today, whether Harbor or Pink Haven, our homes and sanctuaries and even our national headquarters model what it means to offer solidarity, shelter, and asylum in the face of what many of us cannot even begin to imagine. Beloveds, we are the helpers that Fred Rogers' mom told him to look for. We are the helpers that people look for in times of crisis. It isn't going to be easy. We're going to have to learn a lot to confront some of our own unhealthy patterns of behavior. If you haven't taken the Trans Inclusion in Congregations course yet, I highly recommend it. And we're going to talk a lot more in the coming months about white privilege and anti-racism and misogyny and patriarchy and systems of oppression and resistance and more. We are going to be challenged to work with those with whom we can build coalescence, people that we can strategically align with in order to achieve a common goal, even if we disagree on other things. And in our own personal lives, we can be people of care, of integrity, of generosity. Taking care of yourself is a positive action that counters despair, and it is a way to resist. It is a way to resist being beaten down and giving up. Resist through flossing your teeth. Take a nap for the revolution. I took a bunch of those this week. Send someone a thinking of you card. Learn about resistance movements. Reach out when you need someone and be there when someone else needs someone. Consider a social media sabbatical. Or take a page from our own Sandra Harris, who looks out her window and says, "I love you," to everybody who passes by. These are all acts of resistance because they fortify us. They prevent us from being worn down. They prevent us from giving up. They prevent us from just going along. Action is the antidote to despair. The antidote to fear, that's joy. Fear can paralyze and isolate us, making it hard to connect with others and hard to take meaningful action. Joy breaks through that fear by reminding us that even in the darkest times, there are moments of beauty, laughter, and connection. Joy helps us move from a place of fear into a place of courage. Now, I want to be clear, the joy I'm talking about is not the kind that comes from denying reality, from turning away from the hard truths or pretending that everything is fine. That is not what I'm talking about. No, the joy I'm talking about is more resilient, it's deeper. It's the kind of joy that acknowledges the pain, that sees the brokenness, and yet still insists in the pain, in the brokenness, on finding beauty and connection. It's a joy that refuses to be diminished even when the world feels heavy. This isn't joy as escapism. It's joy as an act of resistance, a way of asserting our humanity in the face of everything that seeks to strip it away. In times of oppression or when systems treat people as disposable, joy is a radical act of reclaiming our humanity. You can take everything, but you can't take my heart. Black feminism and other liberation movements remind us that joy insists that we are more than what is being done to us. It is a refusal to be reduced to our suffering. And joy helps to create belonging. It expands the circle of love. We can practice joy together through shared meals, taking walks in nature together, through music, dancing, or simply gathering to lift each other's spirits. And oh my goodness, as sad as the election results were for many of us, there were moments of joy and moments to celebrate. Kentucky, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas all elected their first out LGBTQ+ state legislators. Nope. Sarah McBride became the first out trans person in Congress. For the first time, 2 Black women will serve at the same time in the US Senate. New Jersey elected the first Korean American senator. Right. Kentucky, just a bit south of us, their Supreme Court will have a Black woman on the Supreme Court for the first time. And Tulsa, Oklahoma, home of the Tulsa Race Massacre 100 years ago in 1921, just elected their first Black mayor. Right? This is joyful. This is celebratory. Celebrating them together here is a way of resisting. There are so many community wins. We are entering a hard time, but we don't have to face it alone. In the coming weeks and months, we'll talk more about how to protect each other, about pragmatic and practical steps that we can take to build sanctuary. We're going to talk about power. We're going to talk about resistance. We're going to talk a lot about mission. Because after hope comes resolve. As we go forward, may we choose joy over fear. May we choose connection over isolation. May we choose generosity over greed. May we choose faith over despair. May we choose creation over destruction. And may we choose love over hate. I invite you to share the ways that you are making these choices and the ways that you are seeking joy and providing sanctuary. Share these in the UUI Slack channels as a way of encouraging one another and building community. And if you aren't on the UUI Slack channel, send me an email at dawn@uui.org, and I'll make sure you get connected. May we hold these choices close as we move forward together as a community ready to protect and to act with love, with joy, and resolve. May it be so. May we make it so.